Hi, welcome to Ted's Silversmithing. Today it's time for a quick tip, and I thought I would focus on how to make simple leaves. That's one of the things that I didn't know how to do when I first started, but would have come in handy, so I thought it might be useful for you too. So let's get started. So this is one of my design ideas sketchbooks that you can get on my merch store. On the backs of most of them they have some important silversmithing information, like this one has flow temperatures of various types of solder. A lot of them have conversion charts for gauges and things like that, but I really like having a place where I can keep a record of my projects, and so these have come in super handy over the past few years, so you might want to consider getting them. So I wanted to talk about leaves. Leaves, I incorporate leaves every once in a while. A lot of people who do southwestern jewelry use a lot of leaves and feathers and things like that, and I do some Art Nouveau kind of stuff once in a while that is sort of naturey and foliage-ish. Foliage-ish? Natural and has foliage on it. So I wanted to show you some of the pre-made ones that you can buy. You know, these are a few that I've gotten around over the years from various places. And those are great if you want to. They're kind of expensive anymore since silver's so much, and you pay for the casting charges. But that's probably a feather. I'm not sure if that's a leaf or a feather, but there's all sorts of different kinds of those, and you can buy those. You can even copy those probably with make them out of sheet. The kind I'm going to make is going to be similar to this one here. And so I'm just going to do a simple cutout with some sheet. I would say to make these yourself out of sheet, I wouldn't use any thinner than 22 gauge, which is 0.66 millimeters if I recall. And I'll probably use 18 or 20 for the stem, but I scribed out just kind of a teardrop shape there, and we're going to cut that out with the saw first. And then we're going to add the main stem coming off of it, made out of some thin wire, probably taper it to the end a little bit. And then we'll add some little dimples going up the side. And I'm going to use, I have used in the past, if I'm doing bigger leaves, I took an old screwdriver and filed it to a pretty symmetrical kind of wedge shape, and I'll just stamp it in with that. Oftentimes if I'm doing little ones, I have this little tiny stamp that's got a pretty thin, little narrow rectangular blade on it, so I can use that to add some details to them. And that's what I do a lot of times. So let's go ahead and cut this out. Let's go over to the saw and do that. I'm going to use a 00 on this one. Okay, I'll just clean that up with the file. Now I think let's cut a little bit of 18 gauge wire if I can find some. So I'm just going to kind of taper this a bit. Here's a ring I did a while back, quite a while back actually, with some leaves on it if you're interested in seeing that. One of the keys to getting these on here neatly would be to pre-melt a little bit of solder onto the wire itself so it doesn't have a lot of excess solder bleeding off to the side. So let's see if we can do that. You want to keep it from rolling around, bend it a little bit like that. And then I think what we'll do is we'll just sweat a little bit of solder, one of these little tiny pieces right on there. So let's flex it and do that. You can just lean it against there if you want to. Like I normally would probably pick solder it, but and then let's try and get this all flushed nice. The key is getting that piece of sheet underneath it hot without melting the wire on top, because the wire is pretty exposed to the heat, but you need to really get that sheet up to the flow temperature for it to stick to it. You can get underneath it with a torch, that helps too, if you have one of those tripods, or you have another trick for doing that. We got it pretty good there. So I think let's make some little marks where we want those little notches to be. Okay, so maybe one there, one there. So I can probably just use my Patron file here. Just use the edge of it right like that. I'm starting to get a nice shape. I think I might smooth out these bumps just a little bit. Okay, now let's take that little stamp and let's put some little details in here. I'm just going to use my plastic hammer. I don't have to pound these in too deep. These kind of things can be as realistic or as stylized as you want, I suppose. If you put a texture on here, it might give it a little more interesting depth to it. I've done that before. So you get a pretty decent looking leaf then. You could extend those right to the stem itself. You can curl the stem if you want. You can curve the leaf with a dapping block and dapping punches. That works and makes it look pretty natural. And you can of course oxidize it to make it stand out, the design stand out after you polish it. But you know, that's basically the kind of leaf I was talking about there. For a basic leaf, this is pretty easy to do. It doesn't take very long, and it produces a pretty nice result. So we'll get that polished up, and I'll take a picture of it at the end. And I hope that helped you. I'm always curious, how do you make leaves? How do you make feathers? Another time we'll do some little flower blossoms, maybe. But so tell me your tricks for making leaves. I'd love to hear how you do it. Keep in mind, you can make these any different shape of leaf. So hopefully seeing that and how easy it is to make that kind of leaf, make sure to let me know how it turns out if you try it. Feel free to share in the comments. Okay, well that was how to make some basic leaves. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button before you go. And make sure to share my channel with other people. I think I have a lot of valuable content here that would be useful to a lot of beginners. Check out my main channel page. I'd love it if you watched some of the 630 plus videos over there, and then subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you as a subscriber as well. It doesn't cost anything, and it makes it much easier to find my content. I'd like to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters. They have formed a really nice community over there of artistic, talented people. It's a nice place where we can pick each other's brains and offer suggestions and resources and things like that. So I wanted to thank them not only for the financial help, but also for making it like that. I hope they find it as useful as I do. The other group are my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 28,300, which is awesome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate the kind comments. I do answer all of my comments, so feel free to leave one if you'd like. It's nice to hear people's process, and it's nice to hear people's stories, and I learn from you guys all the time, so I appreciate the suggestions for videos and also just how you do things. So thanks for that. Thank you also for the financial support in the form of super thanks and buy me a coffees and purchases from my shop, or my ebooks. That stuff all makes my channel sustainable, and I couldn't do it without your help, so thank you for that. Finally, visit the video description down below for some important links. There's a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community. There's a link to my newest ebook, which is 2025's tutorial guide with lots of projects in there that you can get. You can even get a package deal if you get all 3 years that I've done so far, 2023, 2024, and 2025. And you get $15 off if you buy all 3 together. There's also a link to my merch store if you'd like to get yourself one of those nice design idea sketchbooks to keep track of your projects in. I find them invaluable as far as having a record of what I've made. So it's getting to be where I can't remember everything I've done or how I did it, so it's nice to have a way to look that up. All right, well, thanks for watching today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.